The Wall Street Journal today assigned, everybody wants to know what's the president going to decide. The president said yesterday he's made his decision, but didn't say what it was. Wall Street Journal assigned a team, one, two, three. Those are three great reporters, all figure out what he's going to do on tariffs. If you read the story, they have no idea. They basically said, here's all the things he might do. So there's indecision there. And there remains a lot of uncomfortableness in the business community. Amazing. If you go on X, you can read lots of prominent market analysts and heavyweight business leaders saying the tariffs are a horrible idea. We've seen the volatility in the markets. Here, I'm going to play you in a moment after I ask Sean a question. Pete Sessions, congressman from Texas, he's on CNN just moments ago, and he was asked about the tariffs and about the midterm and about the special election. We're going to talk about them both at once for a moment. Sean, how would you rate Pete Sessions on these two fronts from 0 to 10? 0 being Bernie Sanders, 10 being Steve Bannon, Super MAGA, and how would you rate him on truth teller scale? Is 0 to 10, 10 being total truth teller.
On tariffs and
No,
on
in
the
general, like, is he a
I,
guy who?
Pete's been around a while. He chaired the rules committee and chaired the NRCC. I mean, I think on the political front, he's got a strong sense of where things are. I've known Pete a long time. I don't think
Yeah,
I'd put him in the high category
yeah.
of like financial experts
Well,
or
okay, but
hardcore MAGA.
okay, so I'd say he's about a 7 on the MAGA scale.
Yeah, that's about
Yeah.
right.
And I'd say as a truth teller, he's also a 7 for a member of Congress. No offense
Yeah.
to members of Congress, but okay. So this guy is not, rock solid MAGA, but he's a supporter of the president, but he's a pretty honest guy. So here is number 108, Pete Sessions this morning on CNN.
Florida's 6th congressional district, just to talk about one of these special election races. What does it tell you that a district that was plus 30 Trump, that Republicans are sweating a little bit there now?
Well, in fact, they're called special elections for a reason. They are special. Not
Sean
only
Spicer
in
says
their
that all the
timing,
time.
but also the candidate that would be performing in those seats. I think that the Republican Party is very aware that we have some lines of division right now. As you know, there are a few things that perhaps have not gone exactly the way as smoothly as some people want. But when you break glass, when you move ideas, when you bring forth the things that you're doing, not everybody agrees. Today we're going to be in that same circumstance, or tomorrow with the tariff issue. This is why we support not only our party, but the concepts of capitalism, more jobs and opportunities for people, and that is where our candidates are.
So Sean, we're going to talk about tariffs in a range of dimensions, but just what do you think of the concern that exists at the White House and in the Hill for the fact that these things are happening like the same week, like the tariffs are front and center as voters are voting in Florida and Wisconsin?
Yeah. So look, first of all, I would say that was handled really well by Pete. I mean, I've said this all along, and Pete was NRCC chair after I was at the NRCC, so who knows where he got that phrase from. But I will just say that is that look, there are three things: the political environment, the candidate, and the mechanics that matter in all races. And in special elections, you look at Josh Wheel, the guy's raised over $10 million. He's got people really fired up. And I don't know Randy Fine. I've never met the guy, but from everything that I've been told by national folks and people in Florida, he's just not a dynamic guy. He's at odds with Ron DeSantis. So he's not, I mean, like this is not a unifying, like the teams out there all fired up. I think he'll still win probably in the 15-point area. They're going to have enough people. I mean, but so, and then again, when you go back to a general election, it's a non-issue, right? It's because it's a special election. People are paying a little bit of attention to it. The point being is this: I think there's going to be a little bit of how bad was his campaign and the mechanics versus the environment. And I think that's why you've got to look at the through line through all three of these races today. If we were to get really close in two of them and lose Wisconsin, that would cause concern. If we pull out Wisconsin and win both of those, it's a bad night for Democrats. Like, you can't just because you get closer in a special election doesn't matter. I mean, if they lost by 1 point in the Randy Fine race, okay, there's a little bit of a silver lining, but to what extent? Josh raised a ton of money. Randy did not. He did not run a good campaign. I mean, if you want to read something into it, read that, run better campaigns. Mechanics matter. Get out the vote matters. I think the tariffs, look, where this is a whole interesting second subject on the tariffs is you're not seeing. I mean, you look at some of the quotes from, I mentioned Ron Johnson earlier in the week, who is 9.9 on the MAGA scale, saying publicly, I'm worried, I'm concerned. And the problem going in right now is there's a lot of trust for the president and his agenda. People are willing to give him a lot of latitude because of how the base spoke in the election. But I'll tell you, this is where there's going to be an interesting dynamic come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with the markets and how companies and industries are reacting. Because uh, at the end of the day, they're willing to think the president a lot of latitude on this, but they also recognize that they're up for reelection. They've got to go home. They've got to represent their industries. And I will tell you, I think the president's bought into the philosophy right now of minimal disruption and there's gonna be churn. The market's not looking good. This is something he sees every day. And I think if things don't go well, right, the way I define well, by the way, is countries tomorrow night uh, into Thursday start coming and say, Mr. President, we have a 10% tariff on you. We're taking it to 2. We've got it this, we're taking it down. If the president can show that he is getting results, U.S. foreign direct investment coming into the United States, or other countries taking their tariff and non-tariff barriers down, that's a huge win. If that doesn't happen and there's retaliatory tariffs and markets start going nuts, I mean, there was a local car dealer on the news here who said everything that's on the lot, the prices are good. We expect though anything afterwards, to see several $1,000s rise. And that's where I think, temporary, a week or two, whatever. This is where I think a lot of these members are willing to hold hands for 5 days, a week, but this is going to be a problem going after that.
Dan, pick up on the combo of tariffs and the specials, and we'll keep talking about both for a bit.
Sure. So just on the specials, look, we can talk about candidate quality, the mechanics of the individual campaigns, and that's not unimportant. But what you're seeing in Florida is also what you saw in Iowa. It's what you saw in the Pennsylvania special election. And so for Republicans, the worry is the trend lines, which is that there is voter frustration with the economy. There is concern about tariffs, and there is even some concern about DOGE. And so I think, okay, if the Republican wins down in the Southwest Florida seat by 9, I think Democrats will feel pretty good. I think if it hits 15 or higher, Democrats will kind of be like, that this was not as good as we thought. We thought we were closer. The Republicans kind of came home and we couldn't really chip enough away. Obviously, Wisconsin, I agree with Sean. If we lose that, I think people will be demoralized because it's a blue wall state that really we need to stop using the blue wall term if that happens. I think on the tariffs, I mean, there's just 3 quick things. One, it's not good that there's a blame game already starting. You have all these stories of people, putting Howard Lutnick in the guillotine here. And so you don't see those stories on DEI and some of this other stuff the last couple months. So it says that internally they are divided and worried. I think, too, the real question, and Sean, you just alluded to it, the White House tolerance for pain. How much do they tell the public it's going to be 6 months, 4 months of pain and price increases and inflation? I think the answer is they won't. I've said this for over 2 months now. Trump does not want a trade war. He wants to threaten it. He wants people to grovel. He wants to say within 48 hours, I got to win and go home. He has no stomach for a month of trade. If inflation hit 8, 9, 10% going into summer, he'll cave like a cheap suit. He will.
This is where the thing that I found fascinating are 2 aspects of this. Number one, he has always, and Trump's narrative has always been consistent, going back decades, on tariffs will help U.S. Okay, where the shift has occurred in the last several weeks is that suddenly they start talking about using this additional funds, $100 billion on autos, up to $600 billion in other, for deficit reduction. That's never been part of Trump's narrative. Why do I bring that up? Because somebody among his team is selling him that that's an added benefit of this. That's a very different play than going in and getting other countries to lower their tariff rates. Because now you're looking at it more as a long-term strategy, which will have a huge, effect on what's going on domestically. The other thing that I sort of get PTSD watching these guys do this is if you read any of the, Mark mentioned one of the stories, they're very consistent, that Trump is playing this close to the vest. And so if you're the team responsible for rolling this out and you're not entirely sure what you're rolling out, that's to your point, Dan, about pinning the tail on the donkey. They're like, you know what? We have a plan. We're ready to go. But, you know, you, and you aren't letting this plan come to fruition. And I think if tomorrow goes sloppy, that's where I think you're going to see the blame game come in big time.